Okay, so today we are going to be talking about new releases, the books that are going to be available, the books that are going to be released in the spring. Winter is over, probably by the time I post this, and spring is upon us. So let's talk about the books that look interesting to me, not all the books that are being released, but all the books that look interesting to me that are being released this season. And I'm probably gonna need glasses for this video. So the first book on my list is Be Not Far From Me. This is a YA thriller, and it is about a girl who loves being outside, loves being in the forest, and when she decides to go hang out in the forest one night after all of her friends get drunk, she finds her boyfriend cheating. So, in a drunken rage, she runs and runs and runs until she's super lost and also hurt, and now has no idea where she is. She's lost in the wilderness with infection setting into her leg. I don't know why, but I love survival stories, so I'm interested. Next book on my list is The Deep. This book is set on the Titanic, but it has a horror twist. The Titanic is haunted. So this book is already published by the time I'm posting this video, so you can get it right away. I plan to read it really soon because it sounds so interesting. I don't really know a lot of details about it. As soon as I found out that it was set on the Titanic and haunted, that was really all I needed to know, so I'm gonna be reading it now, or as soon as I can get it in the mail. Next book on my list is called In 5 Years. So this is about a woman who has a great life. She just accepted a proposal from her boyfriend who she's in love with. And then she wakes up one morning and it's 5 years in the past. And she wakes up to a totally different life. She's with a different person. She has a different career. Her life is completely different. But everything before this didn't feel like a dream, it felt real. She's now forced to reacclimate herself to this new life and accept that this is reality and the other was somehow some elaborate dream or something else, until 4 years after she woke up to a new life, she meets the man that she knew in the first reality. I have no idea how that's gonna turn out, but I'm gonna read it and find out. Next book on my list is called The Honey Don't List. I really don't know anything about this book. It's Christina Lauren's next book. Christina Lauren is a writing duo that do romance, and I still don't know how I feel about them, but I've read a lot of their books. I always fall for their romance, and I always like the story and the couple that they build, but almost always, but I almost never like the way they finish out their books, and I'm always left with really mixed feelings on everything they write. But I keep reading, and I'm gonna read this one too. It's something to do with a book tour. I really don't know anything else. So next on my list is The Mother Code, and this is a sci-fi. It looks like it's a dystopian world, and it's set where, for whatever reason, we are required to have these genetically modified babies incubated within a robot that we create, and then the robot incubates the child and then raises the child. So this follows a character who I think is named Kai, who is raised by this robot, and she's the only parent he's ever known, and he loves her. But now the robots are going to be destroyed. So when Kai's mother is going to be destroyed, he's kind of left with this quandary of, what do I do for this robot that was created that isn't human, but I have this attachment to. The hook of the book says, in a future that could be our own, the Mother Code explores what truly makes us human and the tenuous nature of the boundaries between us and the machines we create. I'm gonna read it. Next book on this list is A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the prequel book for The Hunger Games. I have a whole video talking about my thoughts on this book, so I guess I'll link it if you're interested. But basically, this is going to be following President Snow. This is going to be his origin story, showing him as the hero, and then seeing how he becomes who he is today, or who he is within the Hunger Games. I am hesitant about this book because I tend to not like villain origin stories. They're usually the person was good, and then because of some miscommunication, because they were jilted, because somebody didn't listen to them, snap, now they're bad. And I just don't like it. I just don't like the execution 9 times out of 10. But I have read good villain origin stories, and I think it can be done well. And if it's done well, I'm gonna be thrilled to read it. I just don't really know if it will be. I loved The Hunger Games. I loved Catching Fire, and I hated Mockingjay. So I really don't know if this is going to be a book I'm going to love or I'm going to hate, but I'm going to read it, and hopefully, I hope I love it. I hope it's executed well. So the entire second half of this video is going to be dedicated to books that were either already released this year or that will be released way after spring is gone and past. I got a little bit too excited researching these books and stopped paying attention to publish dates, apparently, but I still wanted to talk about these books because they look good and you might be interested in them too. So, sorry, and continuing on. Next book on my list is Mallory. Mallory is a sequel to Bird Box. I didn't know there was going to be a sequel, but Bird Box is a horror about this world where there's a monster that exists, and if you look at the monster, if you see it, then you go insane and start killing everyone around you. And so it's set in a world where everybody has to tie a cloth around their eyes if they're going to leave the house. You can't trust anybody. It's wonderful. A lot of people hate it, and I understand why it's so polarizing, but I loved it. And I was pretty satisfied with the ending, but I'm going to read the sequel. Next book on my list is Horrid, and I hate the cover. So this follows a girl, and after her father's death, she and her mother move to a new town, a new area. Life is really different. She's dealing with bullying. Her mother is spiraling from going back to her childhood home. But then our main character stumbles upon this room that her mother has kept locked. And what it is an untouched child's room. I'm gonna read this last little bit of the description. When Jane discovers that the storage room her mother has kept locked isn't for storage at all, it's a little girl's bedroom, left untouched for years and not quite as empty of inhabitants as it appears. Is it grief, mental illness, or something more horrid? This one could be something that I love or could be something that I absolutely hate. It's really hard to tell just from this little description, but I'm going to read it and I hope I love it. Next book is called The Other People, and I'm just gonna read you the description. I'm not even gonna try to pretend like I'm giving you some fresh thoughts because this description sounds so good. Driving home one night, stuck behind a rusty old car, Gabe sees a little girl's face appear in its rear window. She mouths one word, Daddy. It's his 5-year-old daughter, Lizzie. He never sees her again. 3 years later, Gabe spends his days and nights traveling up and down the highway, searching for the car that took his daughter, refusing to give up hope, even though most people believe she's dead. When the car that he saw escape with his little girl is found abandoned with a body inside, Gabe must confront not just the day Izzy disappeared, but the painful events from the past now dredged up to the surface. It says, "Why are you called the other people?" Answer, we are people just like you, people to whom terrible things have happened. We found solace, not in forgiveness or forgetting, but in helping each other find justice. I know that there's a second perspective as well about the woman who knows what happened to Gabe's daughter. I have no idea what I'm getting into with this, but I'm gonna read it. Next book is, actually, I don't know how to say that. The Cardier's Hope? I'm just gonna read the tagline. A lush romantic historical mystery comes a gorgeously wrought novel of ambition and betrayal set in the Gilded Age. I've said this in a recent video, but I don't read a lot of historical fiction, but every historical fiction I've read recently has been set in World War II. So I want to read more historical fiction, but at this point, I'm just drawn to anything that's set somewhere else. And the last book on my list is A Sleight of Shadows. So this is supposed to be the sequel to An Unkindness of Magicians. It says on Goodreads that the expected publish date is in June of 2020. However, we still don't have a cover reveal, which seems odd for something that's supposed to be published relatively soon. So I don't know if this is actually going to be published in spring, but if it is, I really want to read it. An Unkindness of Magicians is a standalone fantasy, or it was published as a standalone fantasy, and I felt that it wrapped up in a really satisfying way, and I really don't know what we're gonna do with the sequel, but I want to read it. Again, I don't know if it's actually gonna be published in June or not, but if it is, I will read it. So those are all the books that are coming out in the spring that I'm really excited for. I'd love to hear if there are books on your list that I didn't mention in this video, if there are books on my list that you're now going to be checking out. I will have pre-order links for all of these books in the description. Be sure to chat with me more in the comments. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon.